They lived as invisible souls until one dog's gesture changed everything. The moment that stopped 1,000 hearts. Picture this, a crowded subway platform in the heart of New York City. Thousands of people rushing past, eyes glued to their phones, ears plugged with headphones, lost in their own worlds. Among them, barely noticed, sits an elderly homeless man named Marcus and his loyal companion, a scruffy golden retriever mix named Hope. They've been invisible for so long that Marcus sometimes wonders if he's become a ghost, a shadow that people simply walk through without a second glance. But on this particular Tuesday morning, something extraordinary happened. Something that would shatter the invisible walls between two worlds and remind everyone watching what it truly means to be human. Hope did something that would be captured on a dozen smartphones, shared millions of times across social media, and ultimately changed not just Marcus's life, but the lives of countless others living on the streets. This is their story, a story of loyalty, compassion, and the unexpected hero who wore a collar instead of a cape. The invisible people. Marcus had been homeless for 3 years. Once a construction worker with a steady income, a small apartment, and dreams of retirement, his life had unraveled faster than he could have imagined. A workplace injury led to chronic pain, pain led to medical bills he couldn't afford, bills led to debt, and debt led to eviction. It's a story more common than most people realize, a cascade of unfortunate events that can happen to anyone. "You become invisible out here," Marcus once told a shelter volunteer. "People look right through you, like you're part of the scenery. Sometimes I'd wave at folks I recognized from seeing them every day, and they'd act like I wasn't even there." But Marcus wasn't completely alone. 2 years into his homelessness, he found hope, or rather, hope found him. The dog was in bad shape, abandoned and starving, scrounging for food behind a restaurant. Marcus shared the little food he had, and from that moment on, they became inseparable. Hope was more than a pet. She was Marcus's lifeline. She kept him warm on freezing nights, gave him a reason to get up each morning, and provided the unconditional love that humans had stopped offering. Together, they navigated the harsh reality of street life, finding shelter under bridges, warming themselves over subway grates, and surviving on the kindness of the few strangers who still saw them. Living on the streets means adapting to a world that actively tries to erase you. Benches are designed with armrests in the middle to prevent lying down. Sprinkler systems in parks activate at night to discourage sleeping. Security guards shoo you away from doorways. The message is clear: you don't belong here. Marcus and Hope learned the rhythms of the city, where to find free meals, which police officers would let them be, where the warmest spots were when winter came. They learned to read people's faces, to know who might spare some change and who would yell at them to get a job. The morning, everything changed. That Tuesday started like any other. Marcus and Hope positioned themselves near the entrance of the subway station, Marcus holding a cardboard sign that read, "Homeless veteran, anything helps, God bless." It wasn't entirely accurate. Marcus had never served in the military, but he learned that certain words made people more likely to help. Hope sat beside him, her tail occasionally wagging when someone made eye contact. She had an uncanny ability to sense kindness in people, and her gentle brown eyes had melted more hearts than Marcus's sign ever could. The morning rush was in full swing. Thousands of commuters flooded through the station, a river of humanity flowing around Marcus and Hope like water around a stone. Some stepped over Marcus's outstretched legs without breaking stride. Others moved to give them a wide berth, as if homelessness might be contagious. But then, around 8:47 a.m., something unusual happened. A young woman in business attire stopped. Her name was Jennifer, a marketing executive running late for an important meeting. She'd walked past Marcus and Hope dozens of times before without really seeing them, but today was different. Today, she stopped. Later, Jennifer would explain what made her pause. "I saw the dog looking up at that man with such pure love. It made me realize I'd been treating them both like they were invisible. I felt ashamed." Jennifer reached into her purse and pulled out a $20 bill. She approached Marcus cautiously, unsure of the protocol for this interaction. Marcus looked up, surprised and grateful, and extended his hand. That's when Hope made her move. The gesture that changed everything. As Jennifer handed the money to Marcus, Hope gently took the bill in her mouth. But instead of running off with it or dropping it, she did something remarkable. She carefully stood up on her hind legs, reached up toward Jennifer, and with the most delicate movement, placed her front paw on Jennifer's hand, while still holding the bill. The gesture was unmistakable. Hope was saying thank you. Jennifer froze, tears instantly springing to her eyes. Around them, other commuters had stopped, smartphones out, capturing the moment. Hope maintained the position for several seconds, her paw resting gently on Jennifer's hand, her eyes looking directly into the woman's face with an expression that could only be described as gratitude. "I lost it," Jennifer later recounted on social media, in a post that would go viral. "This dog was thanking me. Not begging, not performing a trick for treats, genuinely expressing gratitude for a kindness shown to her person. I realized I'd been walking past them for months, too busy, too important, too wrapped up in my own world to see the humanity right in front of me." Marcus watched the interaction with tears in his own eyes. Hope had been doing this for weeks, ever since she'd figured out that her thank you gesture brought smiles to people's faces and sometimes resulted in more help. But Marcus had never seen anyone react quite like Jennifer did. The young executive knelt down beside Hope, scratching behind the dog's ears. "What's her name?" she asked Marcus. Perhaps the first time in months anyone had asked him a question like he was a regular human being worthy of conversation. "Hope," Marcus replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Her name is Hope. Are you seeing the invisible people in your community? Sometimes it takes an unexpected teacher, like a grateful dog, to open our eyes to the humanity we've been missing. Keep reading to discover how this single moment rippled outward to change an entire city's perspective." The viral moment. Jennifer wasn't the only one recording. At least 15 people had captured Hope's gesture on their phones, and within hours, the videos began appearing across social media platforms. By evening, #HopeThankYou was trending on Twitter. By the next morning, the story had been picked up by local news stations. The videos showed Hope's gesture from multiple angles, but they all captured the same thing: a homeless man and his dog, invisible to thousands of daily passersby, suddenly seen by millions around the world. "This dog has more gratitude and grace than most humans," read one comment with 50,000 likes. "I walk past homeless people every day without really seeing them. This made me realize how wrong that is," wrote another. "If a dog can show this much love and appreciation, what does that say about us?" asked the third. The response was overwhelming. People began showing up at the subway station looking for Marcus and Hope. Some brought food, blankets, and dog supplies. Others brought cash. A few brought cameras, wanting their own viral moment. It was chaotic, touching, and sometimes uncomfortable. Marcus had spent years being invisible, and suddenly he was the center of attention. A local news crew arrived that evening to interview Marcus. Sitting on the cold concrete with Hope curled up beside him, Marcus shared his story for the first time to an audience that was actually listening. He talked about his accident, his medical bills, the eviction he couldn't prevent. He talked about the shame of asking for help, the exhaustion of trying to survive each day, the despair that sometimes made him wonder if it was worth continuing. And he talked about Hope, how she'd saved his life just as surely as he had saved hers. "She reminds me that I'm still worth something," Marcus said, his hand resting on Hope's head. When nobody else sees you, when you feel like you've disappeared from the world, having someone, even if it's a dog, who loves you unconditionally, that's everything. The segment aired during prime time, and the response was immediate. A GoFundMe campaign started by Jennifer raised $50,000 in the first 48 hours. Local businesses offered Marcus job opportunities. A property management company offered him a rent-free apartment for 6 months to help him get back on his feet. The ripple effect. But the impact of Hope's simple gesture extended far beyond Marcus's individual circumstances. The story sparked a broader conversation about homelessness, visibility, and compassion in modern society. Schools began using the video in lessons about empathy and social awareness. If a dog can recognize and acknowledge kindness, shouldn't we all? Teachers asked their students. Several major cities launched initiatives inspired by Hope's story. See Me campaigns encouraged people to make eye contact with homeless individuals, to acknowledge their humanity with a simple greeting or gesture of recognition. Social workers reported that many of their clients broke down crying when describing these interactions, some saying it was the first time in months that someone had looked them in the eye and smiled.
1 year later. On the 1-year anniversary of Hope's viral moment, Marcus and Jennifer organized an event at the same subway station where it all began. Hundreds of people gathered, including formerly homeless individuals who'd been helped by Hope's Haven, volunteers, donors, and media representatives. Marcus spoke to the crowd, Hope sitting calmly beside him. "A year ago, my dog did something simple. She said thank you. She showed gratitude for a kindness. That gesture reminded people that we're all human, all deserving of dignity and compassion, all connected." He paused, looking down at Hope, who gazed up at him with the same loving expression that had always kept him going through the darkest times. "Hope taught me that visibility matters, being seen matters, acknowledging someone's existence matters, and gratitude, real, genuine appreciation for kindness, that matters too." Jennifer stepped forward to announce Hope's Haven's expansion to 10 more cities, made possible by continued donations and volunteer support. She also revealed a partnership with a major pet food company to provide free food for pets belonging to homeless individuals across the country. "But the most important thing we've learned this year," Jennifer said, "is that addressing homelessness isn't just about policy and programs, though those are crucial. It's also about changing how we see each other. It's about choosing to acknowledge the humanity in everyone we encounter." The event concluded with the unveiling of a small memorial plaque at the subway station entrance. It showed a simple image of a dog extending its paw and read, "In honor of Hope, who reminded us all to be grateful, compassionate, and visible to one another." The lessons from a dog. Hope's gesture was simple, a paw extended, a moment of connection, a thank you. But that simplicity contained profound lessons about humanity, compassion, and community. Lesson 1. Visibility matters. One of the cruelest aspects of homelessness is invisibility. When society treats people as if they don't exist, it compounds the trauma of their situation. Simply acknowledging someone's presence, making eye contact, offering a greeting, these small acts affirm their humanity and dignity. Lesson 2. Gratitude is powerful. Hope's expression of gratitude touched millions because genuine appreciation has become rare. In a world of entitlement and complaint, witnessing sincere thankfulness, especially from unexpected sources, reminds us of the importance of acknowledging kindness. Lesson 3. Compassion is contagious. One woman stopped to help, and her action inspired millions more. Compassion spreads when people witness it. Every act of kindness has the potential to ripple outward, creating waves of positive change. Lesson 4. Animals teach us about humanity. Hope demonstrated qualities that many humans had forgotten:
gratitude, loyalty, unconditional love, and the recognition of kindness. Sometimes it takes a different perspective to remind us of what it means to be human. Lesson 5. Everyone has a story. Behind every homeless person is a complex story of circumstances, choices, and often bad luck. Taking time to hear those stories, to recognize the full humanity of each individual, changes how we see the issue and how we respond to it. Where they are now. Today, Marcus continues to work in construction and lives in his own apartment, no longer rent-free as he's been able to support himself for months now. He speaks regularly about homelessness and continues to run Hope's Haven, which has helped thousands of homeless pet owners across the country. Hope, now about 7 years old, still accompanies Marcus everywhere she can. She's a certified therapy dog now and visits shelters with Marcus, providing comfort to people still struggling with homelessness. She still does her thank you gesture, though now it's part of her therapy work, bringing smiles to people who desperately need them. Jennifer left her marketing career to work full-time for Hope's Haven, finding more fulfillment in nonprofit work than she ever did in corporate America. Stopping that day changed my life as much as it changed Marcus's, she says. It reminded me what actually matters. The subway station where it all happened has become something of a pilgrimage site. People stop to read the plaque, take photos, and often make donations to homeless services organizations afterward. The small memorial has become a reminder that transformation can begin with the simplest gestures. Your turn to see. Marcus and Hope's story isn't just a heartwarming tale, it's a call to action. Every day, millions of people walk past homeless individuals without truly seeing them. Every day, opportunities for connection and compassion are missed because we're too busy, too uncomfortable, or too convinced that someone else will help. But change doesn't require grand gestures or enormous resources. It starts with choosing to see. The next time you encounter someone experiencing homelessness, try this. Make eye contact, smile, say hello. Acknowledge their humanity with the simple recognition that they exist and matter. If you can help financially, great, but sometimes acknowledgement alone can be transformative. Consider volunteering at a local shelter or supporting organizations that work with homeless populations. Learn about the systemic issues that perpetuate homelessness and advocate for policy changes. Support programs like Hope's Haven that recognize the importance of pet companionship for homeless individuals. But the most important thing we've learned this year is that addressing homelessness isn't just about policy and programs, though those are crucial. It's also about changing how we see each other. It's about choosing to acknowledge the humanity in everyone we encounter. The event concluded with the unveiling of a small memorial plaque at the subway station entrance. It showed a simple image of a dog extending its paw and read, "In honor of Hope, who reminded us all to be grateful, compassionate, and visible to one another." Conclusion: the legacy of a gesture. A scruffy dog extended her paw to say thank you, and in that simple moment, she reminded millions of people what it means to be human. She showed us that gratitude matters, that kindness deserves recognition, that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, possesses dignity worthy of acknowledgement. Marcus and Hope lived as invisible souls in a world that had forgotten them, but they never forgot how to be grateful, how to love, how to maintain their humanity in circumstances that would break many people. And when the world finally saw them, really saw them, it was reminded of what we'd been missing all along. The streets of our cities are still filled with people like Marcus once was, people with stories, dreams, and dignity, people who've become invisible because we've found it easier to look away than to confront the uncomfortable reality of human suffering. But now we know better. We've seen what happens when we choose visibility over invisibility, connection over isolation, compassion over indifference. We've seen how one moment of genuine acknowledgement can ripple outward to change lives, communities, and perspectives.
Hope's paw is still extended in a way. She's still teaching us, still reminding us, still showing us what it means to be truly grateful and genuinely kind. The question is, will we take her lesson to heart? Will you stop tomorrow when you see someone others are walking past? Will you make eye contact, offer a smile, acknowledge their humanity with the simple recognition that they exist and matter? If you can help financially, great, but sometimes acknowledgement alone can be transformative. Consider volunteering at a local shelter or supporting organizations that work with homeless populations. Learn about the systemic issues that perpetuate homelessness and advocate for policy changes. Support programs like Hope's Haven that recognize the importance of pet companionship for homeless individuals. But the most important thing we've learned this year is that addressing homelessness isn't just about policy and programs, though those are crucial. It's also about changing how we see each other. It's about choosing to acknowledge the humanity in everyone we encounter.
Local shelters and homeless advocacy organizations reported a surge in volunteers and donations. People who'd never thought much about homelessness suddenly wanted to get involved, inspired by a dog's simple act of appreciation. Hope's gesture opened thousands of eyes to a problem that had always been there. What will you do with this new awareness? The story isn't over yet. The most powerful transformations were still to come. Marcus's new beginning. With the financial support from the GoFundMe campaign and the donated apartment, Marcus began rebuilding his life. But the transition wasn't as simple as having a roof over his head again. You can take someone off the streets, but the streets don't leave you that easily, Marcus explained to a social worker. He struggled with anxiety in his new apartment, finding the silence and isolation unnerving after years of constant noise and chaos. He'd wake up in panic, momentarily forgetting where he was, sometimes rushing outside to make sure Hope was still with him. The trauma of homelessness doesn't disappear with a change of address. Marcus attended therapy sessions provided by a local mental health clinic, working through the PTSD-like symptoms common among people who've experienced prolonged homelessness. He had nightmares about losing his apartment, about ending up back on the streets. But with consistent support and resources, Marcus made progress. He got medical treatment for his chronic pain, addressing the injury that had started his downward spiral years earlier. He attended job training programs and eventually secured a position with a construction company that specifically hired people rebuilding their lives. The job supervisor later said, "Marcus is one of the hardest workers we've ever had. He shows up early, stays late, and treats every task like it matters. When you've been invisible and then get a second chance, you don't take it for granted." Hope, meanwhile, became something of a local celebrity. People would stop Marcus on the street to meet her, and she greeted everyone with the same gentle kindness she'd always shown. Marcus joked that Hope had better social skills than he did, and it was true that her presence made reintegration easier. People approached to meet the famous dog and ended up having meaningful conversations with Marcus. Paying it forward. 6 months after the viral moment, Marcus approached Jennifer with a proposal. He wanted to start a non-profit organization focused on helping homeless individuals with pets. Research shows that many people refuse shelter because they won't leave their animals behind, and few resources exist to support homeless pet owners. "Hope saved my life," Marcus told Jennifer, "and then she saved it again by helping people see me. I want to do that for others." Jennifer, who'd been transformed by her own encounter with Hope, agreed to help. They founded Hope's Haven, an organization providing veterinary care, food, and supplies for pets belonging to homeless individuals. They also worked with shelters to create pet-friendly housing options and educated the public about the crucial role animals play in the lives of people experiencing homelessness. The bond between homeless individuals and their pets is often stronger than any other relationship in their lives, explained Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a veterinarian who volunteered with Hope's Haven. These animals provide emotional support, protection, companionship, and purpose. For many people, their pet is the only family they have. The organization grew rapidly, attracting volunteers, donations, and partnerships with veterinary clinics and animal welfare organizations. Within a year, Hope's Haven was operating in 5 cities, helping hundreds of homeless pet owners keep their beloved companions healthy and safe. Marcus became an advocate and public speaker, sharing his story at conferences, schools, and community events. He spoke about the dehumanization of homelessness, the systemic failures that trap people in poverty, and the transformative power of simple kindness. Homelessness is not a personal failing, it's a systemic failure. Most people are 1 or 2 emergencies away from losing everything. A medical crisis, a job loss, a family tragedy, these things can happen to anyone. The difference is whether you have a safety net when you fall. He also talked about visibility and dignity. When you're homeless, you learn that most people would rather pretend you don't exist than acknowledge your humanity. It's dehumanizing in a way that's hard to explain unless you've experienced it. But when someone looks you in the eye, says hello, treats you like a person, that matters more than the money they might give you. The broader impact. Hope's story continued to ripple outward in unexpected ways. A filmmaker created a documentary following Marcus's journey and exploring the broader issue of homelessness in America. The film premiered at a major festival and was later picked up by a streaming service, introducing millions more people to Marcus and Hope's story. The documentary featured interviews with other homeless individuals, social workers, policy experts, and advocates, painting a comprehensive picture of the homelessness crisis. But it was the scenes with Marcus and Hope, their obvious love for each other, their daily routines, their small moments of joy amid hardship, that resonated most powerfully with viewers. Homelessness is not about not having a home, one social worker explained in the film. It's really about not having a place in society. It's about being erased, forgotten, treated as less than human. Programs that address housing are important, but we also need to address the social and psychological dimensions of homelessness, the isolation, the shame, the invisibility. Educational institutions began incorporating the story into curricula about social justice, empathy, and civic responsibility. Students launched their own initiatives, from volunteer programs at local shelters to awareness campaigns in their communities. One high school class started a program called See Someone, challenging students to have a genuine interaction with a homeless person each week, not to give money necessarily, but to acknowledge their humanity with a conversation. Students reported that the experience changed their perspectives dramatically. I realized I'd been taught to ignore homeless people like they were dangerous or different, but when I actually talked to them, I met veterans, former teachers, people with families and dreams. They were just people who had bad luck. The transformation started with one dog's gesture, but it's continuing with thousands of individual choices. Choices to see, to care, to act. As this story reaches its conclusion, consider, what choice will you make?